All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless me here talking about real music in real time for real people just like you right there and just like me. So the Rolling Stones have decided to continue without Charlie Watts. In fact, a new article says anything can happen, meaning we don't know when we're going to call it quits. Rolling Stones took stock of their future ahead of the No Filter tour and following the death of drummer Charlie Watts. See, this is a tough one because the band, what else do they need to accomplish as a band? Seriously. I mean, they're all well into their 70s at this point. What is amazing is that Keith can still play. Ronnie Wood is still a very good guitar player. Mick Jagger, a genetic freak to some degree. All of them looking fairly old and weathered, but they still perform at a pretty high level. They recruit a top-notch drummer in Steve Jordan, and they're off to the races again. And Jagger says, if things are good next year and everyone's feeling good about touring, he says, I'm sure we'll do shows. He said, I'm just trying to concentrate on this tour right now. Keith Richards asked if the tour will be about finding out what feels right and possible. The guitarist seemingly confirmed that it's more that way. He said, we hit a very difficult point to take this thing out, but we're going to do it. Charlie was prepared for us to go ahead. We were expecting him to pick it up somewhere. Steve was thankfully going to be the backup or the pickup, but things ain't turned out that way. Keith Richards using the English language only the way Keith can do it. Ronnie Wood offered the most optimistic response, saying, I got a feeling that we're just tickling the surface here. We're seeing another exploded mine. It's got a lot of time on it. So Ronnie Wood basically looks at this as another phase of the Rolling Stones. I don't know. It's weird because I've always thought, okay, the Stones, they're kind of over, but they continue to sell out giant arenas. Mick Jagger continues to prance around as if he's 50, we'll say. I don't want to say 30 because I think that's a little much, but he seems very healthy, even though he's had some health issues. Keith Richards, as we all know, is a pharmaceutical marvel. And I say that because it's just amazing what that guy has done to himself. And yet he's not only above ground, but he's still playing guitar fairly well. And if, Keith can't manage the guitar, then Ronnie Wood is there and he is certainly more than capable. And then, like I said, Steve Jordan, just a tremendous drummer. I mean, if you're going to replace Charlie Watts, you've got to, aim high, and they aimed high. And I don't like it. Part of me thinks maybe they should just hang it up because they've done everything they need to do except gross huge amounts of money, which they've done before, but they have the capacity to do it again and again and again. And nobody is really all that concerned about new Stones tunes these days, although they are still creating some pretty good music. They're still operating on a very high level. And if you look at where Paul McCartney is right now and where Mick Jagger is, and the only reason I bring this up is because McCartney, I feel, is definitely on a downward trajectory because of aging. Mick Jagger isn't on that same trajectory yet. I think Paul has a couple of years on Mick, but again, as a performer, a frontman, as a vocalist, of course, with the caveat that Mick Jagger really never wrote anything that difficult to sing. I mean, you may disagree with me, but I don't know. His vocal style, I think, is easier to adapt to over time, whereas McCartney composed some things that are a little bit more difficult. And with aging, I think it's your voice that you really have to worry about, and you have to find ways to compensate. And people are starting to hear it with Paul. I don't think they're hearing any difference with Mick Jagger. A lot of people think Keith and Mick look the same, you know, like they haven't aged at all. I mean, because they weren't really attractive people to begin with, you know, and add Ronnie Wood to that list. And some would even say add Charlie Watts, although I think Charlie was probably the best looking guy in the group. So with that said, we wish the Stones the best. It's entertainment. You know, if you haven't seen the Stones, that would be a band you would probably want to put on the bucket list if you had the opportunity to see them. I have seen them. It was the coldest concert I've ever been to outdoors at Foxborough Stadium, which the Stones were recently there basically doing kind of a warm-up for their No Filter tour. Kind of ironic, they go back to the same places, but they go where the people will show up. And Massachusetts, for whatever reason, because of the great rock stations that used to exist there, they still have a pretty devout following, but they are the Rolling Stones, so they can kind of go anywhere they want, right? And people will show up. So there you have it. That's my video. Rest in peace, Charlie Watts. You're still going to be missed. And again, the Stones will continue because they are the Stones.